before we get into that, I will say I remember Tiffany Montgomery years ago when the pandemic was, pandemicing, and I remember people would get upset with her. And in some cases, these were like diehard Christians would be so upset with her when they would say, "Oh, can you pray for my cousin, my mom? They have, the sickness." And she said, "I sure will, and it will pass like the common cold." And so many people got offended by that and was like, "How dare you say that? And that's why I'm saying all these gems, I really am splitting into two parts, because like the meme, we go back to the meme which said, if and when another sickness plagues the earth, I hope that you all are prepared, because that was the drill and y'all failed. Them people played y'all like a fiddle, and you fell for everything. It split families up. People wouldn't even hug their families because, oh, you're this. And, some people would say they got it, and I watched my parents or my grandparents die from it. But let's call a spade a spade. They already had high blood pressure. They already had high cholesterol. They already had diabetes. And then they continue to eat the junk that they have been eating for 60 years. What's up, y'all? So we have expanded, all right. P.S.A, the ghostwriting solution. We got another ad here, obviously, has expanded. And now we are specialized curriculum development and reading and history for K through 12. So what does that mean? Why to choose us? So this is expertise in K through 12 education, all right? So this is custom curriculum development, curriculum length options, consultation revision, and additional resources. Also, we have a la carte options. So if in case your school for the private and public schools does not want the full shebang, guess what? You can do the a la carte options, which includes the curriculum design, the lesson plans, the multimedia content, assessments, the education guides, interactive activities, reading lists, resource compilations, and historical source collections, in case, again, you don't want the full shebang. So as always, reach out to me at PSA, thepodcast.com, or my email, theprodigyperspective@gmail.com. Hit me up.
Just because Trump did it or Biden did it or whoever you believe in, like, I don't care. I don't care who did it. Like, anyways, yeah.
So I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna go to my next question with this. But I think that's interesting when you say they say never question science. I think that's kind of similar to like being a believer or Christian. And growing up, they would our elders would say, "Well, don't question God." And here's the thing: we don't understand God's ways, right? And because His ways exceed what we believe. So, but it's interesting because if you read the Bible, the prophets question God. You know what I'm saying? So people question it. I get the logic is saying just like, you should just what's the word I'm looking for? You should, maybe show reverence to these people, but it's okay to ask healthy questions. And like I said, the Bible is a great example of that.
That's a good way to say
so
it, yeah.
Now let me ask you this. So what is your take when people say, "Oh, well, if you're not going to take the scene and all this stuff, why are you taking aspirin? Why are you taking painkillers if that's medicine and that has toxins?" What's your take on that?
Yeah, so like those have been around forever, right? Like, and if you actually delve into, so I love looking at like where did they come from, right? So like instead of taking aspirin or Tylenol, right, or like aspirin, for example, comes from white willow bark. A lot of people don't know that. So in these old movies where you see somebody get whipped, say Jesus Christ, right? You're watching a movie where Jesus is getting whipped and they put a block of wood in his mouth, right? A lot of people think it's just to stop from like biting your tongue off, which is probably true. But it's also traditionally it was white willow bark. It was aspirin. They were getting aspirin while they were getting whipped to kind of help numb the pain a little bit. Like, so I tell people like it came from nature, right? Like bat venom doesn't, yes, it comes from nature, but so does a natural flavor in a beaver butt, right? Like, I'm not gonna put natural flavor in my food. Beaver butt's natural flavor, but I'm not gonna put it in my food, right? You see what I'm saying? Like it's I tell people it's got to pass the sniff test, right? If it doesn't make sense, if traditionally it never made, like people have lived for thousands and thousands of years without the need for vaccines, right? There's still countries, right? The Muslim countries that don't necessarily, they don't use vaccines, and there's no plagues going around. Or there, for example, here's another sniff test, okay? Now, there's certain medicines that were used, right, that were talked about. I'll say Ivor. That's all I'm going to say. There's a medicine called Ivor, been around for years, very cheap, was talked about being good for the C19 instead of the scene, or right, if you get sick with C19, then you take this Ivor drug. Now, it's used in Africa for malaria. Okay, here's the sniff test that I'll give you, Izzy. They weren't getting C19. It wasn't spreading. No one had it in Africa because they were taking it for a different, for malaria, for mosquitoes, but they weren't getting this other virus. So how do you say that it doesn't work? Like, now the United States didn't want to do research into it because, heaven forbid, there's no money to be made, right? But like, it passed the sniff test to me, right? Like, okay, I'll give you one more because I want to say it before we quit. If people have long C19 symptoms, okay, there's still people that is what's called long C19, right? They've still got like lack of smell. They have lack of like all these other, right, like functions, right? They lack energy still. They're brain fog. They're fuzzy, and they know it's from when they got C19. It's what's called long C19. The fix, I'll give you the fix. Now, I can't call it a cure. I can't call it a remedy, right? But the scientifically proven way to overcome this issue is nicotine patches. Okay, so this is another sniff test thing. Okay, people that smoked during C19 didn't get long COVID. They actually, their symptoms of C19 went away very rapidly. So the lowest, so people that come to me and they're like, I still have symptoms of C19, long C19. The research shows that a 7 milligram patch, so it's the lowest patch you can buy at your local pharmacy, taken for 6 days, over 80% of people, over 6 days, it'll be completely resolved. Okay. Now, the other 20% have a deeper issue, but all you have to do is take that same patch for up to 21 days. So I just tell my clients, take it for about 20 days. Why not? Right? It's just a nicotine patch. You're not going to get hooked on it either. But what happens is these spike proteins bind to your nicotine receptors in your body, and they hold on for dear life. Now, I'm not a smoker, so how would I know this, right? I'm sitting here trying to be as healthy as I can because I know smoking may not be the best thing for your lungs and all this kind of stuff. So I don't do it thinking I'm healthy. And yet nicotine unbinds these C19 from the receptor, and then it binds nicotine to it. And then your body gets rid of the C19 spike protein, clears it. And then after 6 to 21 days, 100% resolution. Like, why are we not told this? Like, this is right. Scientifically, pisses me off because there's no money to be made. It's cheap.
Right, and it keeps coming back to the same topic of money, and that's ultimately what it is, you know. And even with, I learned, so one thing which I'm gonna give y'all a take now, which will be a tip for later, but there's a strong connection to healing anything illness in your body and going raw. Now, not raw like that, but raw from the angle of fruits and vegetables and water for periods of time. Dr. Rowe teaches this. Sure, other people do too, but I know that's who I know, who she said her husband was on all these medications, obese, all this. He went raw for 10 days and reversed everything. So that's one I'm gonna give away with y'all now. And I've even seen it, me doing it, because I try to do it every month, 3 to 4 days. The longest I've done it, I've done raw vegan 4 days, and I've done raw vegan 4.5 days. Supposed to be 5. Things happen. And then I did raw fruits and vegetables and water only for 4 days. At some point I want to do 7, and eventually I want to do 10. But in those days, you know, incorporating that into my diet throughout the last year, because I was on the borderline of having high cholesterol, and I was actually, my cholesterol was 281. And my doc, which isn't the highest, but my doctor, which he kept trying to push, you know, okay, if it's still high, we're going to go ahead and get you on some cholesterol medicine. I'm not taking no medicine. Now, of course, I could have fought that, but I ended up incorporating this. I ended up going back, and the lady who checked me, when the nurses, she checked, and it was like, oh, your cholesterol is 264. She's like, what are you doing? She said, because whatever you're doing is working. So, you know, I wasn't going to take the medicine, no way. But as it's been as you've confirmed, but I heard prior to, they keep trying to push it because they get a kickback. So keep that in mind, people.
So good.
Now, going back to Pharmacia, and I got something from gotquestions.com with references to Galatians 5 and 20, Revelation 18:23, and Revelation 21 and 8. It says, modern use of the word sorcery invokes images of supernatural power and spells. Biblical use of pharmakia doesn't fit well with such ideas. Rather, the term suggests various forms of drug abuse. Those might include drug use and pagan worship as addiction or as poison used to manipulate and control others. In modern English, separate terms distinguish medicine, chemicals, and illicit drugs. As used in most contexts, a pharmacist and a drug dealer both distribute chemicals, but of different kinds and for drastically different reasons. Now, because English vernacular uses entirely different words, phrases like selling drugs evoke something illicit, while taking meds or prescription drugs don't imply anything nefarious. Ancient Greek used words like pharmakia to refer to the entire spectrum from medicines to psychoactives to poisons. This makes cultural and biblical context crucial when interpreting terms related to pharmakia. Now, with that, so now we are able to see that there can be a different, but it still can be used in the same family. But based on some of the reasons, and I'm not accusing nobody, but based on some of the reasons why he left the pharmaceutical industry, we can go and even maybe suggest that at the root of the pharmaceutical industry today, they are based on the pharmakia from the angle of, and I'm gonna use the word spells because when you're under a spell, you can't get off of it. So based on that definition and that understanding, when some of these things that they put us on that we can't get off of, and you're stuck for life, Ozempic, you gotta put it in your gut for life. You got all these things, you stuck for life. That sounds like witchcraft to me. Now, what you're doing, not so much, but to me, that sounds like you under a spell. You might as well, you know what I'm saying? So I want people to just take that into consideration because I know you're going to hear that. Some people, not everybody, some people going to hear that and be like, oh, no, he's crazy. You're a lunatic. But the definition's right here. So
yeah, and two quick points. One, I believe that the past 100 years of medicine, 50 years, however long it's really been going, will be considered the dark ages of medicine because we're really worried about profits and not health. I think that's turning a corner, but again, I think that's probably 10, 20 years away before you'll start seeing true health. Now, every doctor that's ever gone to a doctor's school, okay, pharmacists, chiropractors, physical therapists, nurse practitioners, everyone that's been to doctor school is taught that medicine should be used for 6 months. That we need to, right, if you come in and your blood sugar's in 400 range, yeah, let's get you on a medicine right away. Let's really get it down and let's address the root causes for the next 6 months to a year and then get you off of those meds. We're taught that. But doctors don't do that. Doctors don't know how to do that. They don't have the time to do that. And so doctors, for example, in the state of Nevada can only bill insurance because it's all about making money. They can only bill insurance for 7 minutes worth of time. So they've only got, now what they do in Nevada is they double book patients in those 7-minute windows. So every 3.5 minutes, they're seeing a patient. They don't let their hand off the door. Hey, how are you doing? Good. Your prescription's working good for you. Great. See ya. And they shut the door and they go to the next patient because they can only bill every 3.5 minutes. And they're probably only getting like $15 every 3.5 minutes, but they need to make in a doctor's head, they probably need to make 250, 300 an hour to make it worth it. Right. To right. Cause that degree took them a lot of money. Right. Like, so there's just no time, effort, or into getting people off of meds after 6 months, 3 months, a year. I mean, people have been on meds and it's a lazy way of doctoring and prescribing. So, but we're all taught to do it. They just don't.
right. And it's just, and like I said, it just shows you just that in this systems and all these systems there, and we're learning. And like I said, the ultimate root of where pharmacy is now is dark. And
Yeah.
it's some people see it, but some people really don't. And like you said, it's only going to get worse. But what I will say, in all of these industries, we are going to see, no matter what industry, whether it's this, whether it's Hollywood, whether it's education, you're going to see the bad guys. But then we also see people rising up that are like the ones who are like coming in like, no, we're going to do like this with that same stuff, kind of like the things that you're doing. So because we still need holistic health, we need help, but it's just it's so much we can do. And I'm gonna tell you this now because I still got a lot of questions to ask. We're gonna have to split this episode into two because it's not gonna be, I don't want to rush it. And yeah, so we're going to split this into two. So this is my next question. So the FDA does not regulate natural substances in a way as pharmaceutical drugs. Do you see this as a failure to protect consumers or as a necessary freedom for individuals to choose their health path?
Yeah, so this is a twofold question that we always get asked. One, we want regulation. We want we want the bad guys to get out of the market that are just putting water in capsules and saying that it's something special, right? But at the same time, like, we don't want government. Like, go away, FDA. You're already screwed everything up. Like, you pick winners, you pick losers. Like, no, go away. So my humble opinion is like, no, go away. But you've got to do your vetting, right? You got to vet good supplements, good companies, good products, good people, and then you go off of that. And it's hard because people need to follow people like, and I'm not going to pat myself on the back here, but like myself or other doctors that care enough to do the vetting for you. If you're a plumber, right? If I need my house plumbed, I'm going to go hire somebody because I don't know how to do it. Like, I want the best, most up-to-date technique that the plumber can use. And so I don't have time to do what he does. And I doubt the plumber has time to look into vitamins. So let me do it for you. This is my specialty. This is my now we don't sell every product in the world. We've only got about 40 supplements, which is a lot. Don't get me wrong. But we don't sell things like, I don't know, green tea extract, right? We don't sell all sorts of other things. But I do my vetting and I know where to recommend you and others. So like, if you guys ever need recommendations, just find somebody, follow them, like ask them because they've probably done the research. But FDA, get out of our lives. Like, no, heck no.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Okay. So now we've covered a lot thus far. So let's move into the next segment, which is the weekly sabbatical. And this is a time where we kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of reminisce on some things. So now let's take it back. You talked about you just really from schooling, as far as like late in life schooling. Was there anything in your childhood that made you question pharmaceutical drugs?
You know, I've actually questioned. So my mom was an oncology nurse. So I was as a kid, we were these cute little kids that my mom would bring into the clinic on like Christmas Day. People are on the drip lines for chemo, and we'd sing, some carols to them and try to brighten their day. And of course we did, because right, old people on drip lines love kids. But man, I just saw how sick they were. Now my mom to this day, again, having been a chemo nurse in the past, and having looked into the research now, right? 98% of people 98% of people with cancer don't die of cancer. They die of the chemo. They die of the malnutrition associated with cancer treatment. Only 2% die of cancer. Now, my mom's like never put me on any of those meds, right? So that was one thing. Second thing I was questioned was like, I've never been a breakfast kid. Like it's just in me. Like I never wanted to eat breakfast. I'd be trying to get out the door in high school, and my mom would be like, "You need to eat your breakfast, right? Like the most important meal of the day, And then of course, then you'd like walk back in the house, and you'd like pour yourself like, Fruit Loops, How's Fruit Loops gonna help me get
Bunch of junk.
most important meal of the day and Fruit Loops, right?
Bunch of
Or
junk.
Captain Crunch, or right, like all that stuff. And so like now fast forward, and I learned that like it was like in the Paleolithic days. So when people talk about paleo, right? Paleo is like when our ancestors roamed the earth, right? And like we lived in caves and like, right, we hunted and gathered. We were hunters and gatherers. They didn't have fridges. They didn't have like ways to store food. So they would wake up in the morning and they would go hunt right off. The men would hunt and the women would stay at camp and kind of get the fire ready and keep the kids all, safe and whatever. They actually didn't start eating till about noon. Now, that's about the time I start getting hungry. So this whole like intermittent fasting idea, right? Where you basically, you finish your meal at night, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., and you don't eat until the next day around like noon, 1 o'clock. Like I have lived on this principle because it passed the sniff test. My body just wanted to do that, right? And so now, as another just quick tip, and this is just in talking about, intermittent fasting. I know we're going long, but like I said, if you can intermittent fast, okay, you just say you do this. You quit eating at 8 in the morning and you don't eat till noon the next day. Throw a workout first thing in the morning. Any workout, really, because think of the paleo era, okay? They wake up and they start running for their food, right? They start running to kill the buffalo or whatever, right? Or gather their food, right? They're exercising. That workout first thing in the morning with an intermittent fast will boost your testosterone levels by about 2,000%. Now, you may have low levels already, but to boost that naturally by 2,000% may take you to here. If you're already high, to boost it to 2,000, like I said earlier, if you're not horny, you're not healthy. Like, I know testosterone is like a bad example, like, because that's not all testosterone does is sexual, but it's a key indicator of where testosterone levels are, right? And so I've always questioned like breakfast and like the food pyramid. I mean, I'm like, who made this stuff, right? Like, so I guess I've always questioned, maybe not necessarily medicines, cancer for sure, but just always questioned.
Well, they said it was a change when they started trying to tell people we didn't need fat, and they try to incorporate the low fat diet. And then once they did that, that's when everybody started to become obese because it was like the grains and that forced
Yeah,
that. That's why this
processed.
generation is processed foods is more sick and more, in fat, obese, excuse me. And so that was the reason why. And I saw that was like
Another one.
something at night.
That's another one that made me go, huh? Like we're not supposed to eat butter or eggs. Like those are pretty natural things, if made natural, not margarines or things like that. But it just
Right.
makes you scratch your head and go, well, if God gave us everything for the benefit of man, like why are we not allowed to do that one? Yeah. Always
No, for
question.
sure.
Always question.
But no, but that's the thing. Back to Dr. Rose, she said, "Eat what God calls food," and what he, and that she names the seven things. Talking about some, the certain meats and the vegetables and the fruits and a lot of everything else. She said, "Eat it to its closest design." She said, "Don't drink orange juice. Eat the orange." She said
Correct.
because a lot of this stuff is our lab experiments, and when you look at the back of the labels, you see this stuff, and it's just like. Even with maple syrup, I buy the maple syrup that says ingredients maple syrup. The other one where they have those,
Corn syrup and all sorts of different sugars. Yeah.
then it just leads to cancers and things. Of course, you're not gonna hit it with everything, but I still feel like you should try to be as close to
Absolutely.
the minimum as possible. So, how does the sick care model fail in promoting long-term wellness, and what are the foundational pillars of your proposed healthcare revolution?
Dude, so cool, man. So truly, like, we should call what the Western model has for us, the allopathic medicine, we should call it sick care, because doctors only care for you when you're sick, right? They only get money when you go into their facility when you're sick. Okay, but there's places in Japan. So there's what's called blue zones around around the world. Okay, where most centenarians, right, people that get to 100 years old, live in these areas. Okay, so they're like people like right. I think let's go see what they're doing. Right, let's go past the sniff test. Like, what are they doing? Right, and they're eating things just like you said, as close to God made as possible, right? If you could pick it and eat it, do it, right? And they're not eating processed foods, but in Japan they have a model where they have a doctor that's over a set amount of people. Okay, so just say the doctors in the United States make 300,000 a year. I don't know if that's a close number. I know some make more, some make less, but just say a doctor in the United States makes 300,000 people. They need to see X amount of people. They need to prescribe X amount of things. They need to do X amount of surgeries, right? Now in Japan, they're paying the doctor the same amount, say 300,000. Now he's over, say, 50,000 people. So his goal, he doesn't want us to have to see all 50,000 people, right? He wants to see as few of them throughout the whole year as possible. So his goal is to be out there educating people on nutrition, on lifestyle, on here's how you can avoid getting, the flu. Here's how you can avoid being obese. Here's how you can avoid, right? And so the doctor's out there taking a proactive approach, teaching and educating and loving his people so that they don't have to come see him. Now, some have to come see him because they get stuff, sure. But his model is basically health care. He cares about your health. Okay. So it's such a cool like idea. Like, I really wish like something like that came to the United States. However, it's not. It's not. And we both know that, right? And it's not going
Right.
to change anytime soon. But so Beyond Health's model and my model specifically for health and wellness is simplified. Okay. I binge listened to a lot of your podcasts because, like I said, when we agreed we were going to be together, I was like, man, I want to know like what this guy thinks and all these different things that he does, so that I can benefit his audience as much as possible. And uh, I lost my train of thought, but basically, one of them was mental health, right? Again, this is called the mental health podcast. A lot of people identify with the disease they have. They say, I am cancer, or
Yeah.
I am high cholesterol, or I am high blood pressure, right? Like those words, I am, you know this as well as I do, man. Those are powerful words, brother. And we are not, right? We are spiritual beings in a human form for just a short period of time, but we are not those things. We are royal priesthood. We are amazing human people, beings, right? Heirs of
Right,
a
right, right.
father. Um, and so I hate the fact that they give all these terms. There's over 30,000 different diagnoses in the medical model. Now, I think it's twofold. One, to confuse you, right? If you don't know what you have, and a doctor makes you think that, right, like you've got like Wendy, the Wendy Williams, by the way, she has aphasia. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, wow, that sounds crazy. I don't even know what aphasia is, right? It's just a rare nervous system disorder. Like, long story short, they have all these names to confuse you because the doctor knows they're God, so don't
Yeah.
question them. But the second thing is, now they give it also for insurance purposes. I get that, but I try to distill it down to the most simple. So our motto is actually a triangle. I'll have to, I don't know, I could probably find it here. Oh, I'll find it. I know where it's at. Dude, I'll show you this. So this is so our model is this triangle right here, right?
Okay.
Okay, it's basically, there it is. One disease is up top. Two causes as you go down. There's two little buttons, right? Two little dots. It's basically two causes of one true disease. So there's only one true disease, two causes, and six pathways. That's our model. Now let me tell you, the one true disease is cellular malfunction. That's it. At the root cause, we are cells. When a sperm and an egg meet, it creates a cell, and that cell propagates and expands and makes more cells, and then it makes brain cells and liver cells and skin cells and eye cells and teeth cells. Right. It makes cells. So at the root cause of every issue, it's a cellular malfunction. Okay, there's only two causes of cellular malfunction. Now you've already dived into it, and I love it. You did it without knowing. Okay, the two causes is nutrient deficiency. You lack something. Okay, this is why,
Mhm.
right, raw food is so good, because it's packed full of just nutrients and vitamins and good stuff. Okay, but the second cause of the one true disease, which is cellular malfunction, is toxins, toxicity. It's either one, you lack something, or two, you have too much of something. Okay. And then there's six pathways, like the medical pathway, nutritional pathway, like physical pathway. Like, I could go into those, but it's irrelevant. If you can understand that there's only one true disease and two causes, we can address everything. And I have cancer. What cell is it? Let's address it. Let's give it what it needs, and then let's get rid of what it doesn't need, right? Whether it's mercury or cadmium or thallium or whatever chemical you might be burdened with. Let's detox. Let's give you the nutrients. And most people, I would say 99.9% of people, can overcome everything and anything. We're a new human being every 7 years. Every cell in our body regenerates every 7 years. So
Yeah. And it's
that's
at the
that's a
yeah.
mouthful, but that's my basic model of health.
Right, and that's why I said we got to split this into two parts because you can't get everything in one. And
Oh,
some
fair.
people do, but I think just for my audience, because they like me, like let's break it up. Because
Yeah.
there's some podcasts that go for 2 hours, and but I think this one we need to break up. So let me ask you this. Now, this is where we get to the decision making for the audience. So I already mentioned going raw. Like I said, trying to maybe start off with maybe doing a day a week, maybe try to do even where you get to the point where you can do 3 days consecutively, maybe at least once a month. So I remember before we get into that, I will say I remember Tiffany Montgomery years ago when the pandemic was, pandemicing. And I remember people would get upset with her, and in some cases, these were like diehard Christians would be so upset with her when they would say, "Oh, can you pray for my cousin, my mom? They have, the sickness." And she said, "I sure will, and it will pass like the common cold." And so many people got offended by that and was like, "How dare you say that? And that's why I'm saying all these gems, I really am splitting into two parts, because like the meme, we go back to the meme which said, if and when another sickness plagues the earth, I hope that you all are prepared, because that was the drill and y'all failed. Them people played y'all like a fiddle, and you fell for everything. It split families up. People wouldn't even hug their families because, oh, you're this. And, some people would say they got it. And I watched my parents or my grandparents die from it. But let's call a spade a spade. They already had high blood pressure. They already had high cholesterol. They already had diabetes. And then they continued to eat the junk that they had been eating for 60 years. So it was, I'm not saying they deserved it. I'm not saying, but it unfortunately made a bad situation worse.
Yeah, and the two biggest causes, real quick, of COVID, C-19, which it's going to happen in the future, was one, obesity, but that wasn't the biggest cause of COVID, of C-19 deaths. Okay, the
Yeah.
biggest cause is actually fear. And fear causes your cortisol to then override your immune system, and your immune system to decrease. So many things go wrong with just fear. And you looked at the media, you looked at government, you looked at every single person. It was hysteria, and everyone was just so scared. And then just to think of how our kids were damaged, right? Not seeing people's facial expressions, right? Like kids, I don't even know what our future's gonna kids are gonna be messed with, but it was bad.
So now, could you share some health practices for my audience or routines that have significantly impacted your own well-being? Besides, we already mentioned raw.
Yeah, man. So there's three things I think everyone needs, and I hate saying that because we are not boot fit alls. Right? We're all unique individuals that need different things. However, I've distilled it down into three, and then there's even a 4 and 5 in there, depending on what your symptoms are. But number one, a multivitamin. No matter how much, like if we were in the 70s and 80s talking, Izzy, I would say just eat a good raw diet, and you would be getting the amount of nutrients you actually can need for life and for survival, and to get rid of the toxins and things like that. But anymore, we just our food system is so mass grown. It's so rapidly grown that they're not repleting the soil with all the nutrients that the plants need. So the plants may look healthy, but they're not giving us all of the phytonutrients and the things that we need.
Right.
So a good multivitamin. I mean, and like I said, don't take a $4 one. Like honestly, if you're getting a multivitamin that's like 30 to $50, it's probably in the right field of what you need. Okay.
Okay. Good stuff.
Multivite. Okay. So you have to do a multivite. Like you just aren't getting the right amounts anymore. Okay. Second one is a probiotic. Our guts are just destroyed. Okay. From the antibiotics that are in our meats. Okay. Pesticides kind of work like antibiotics for our gut as well. Okay. They kind of just destroy bacteria. And so everything we're doing is just toxic to our gut. And they're saying that our gut is our second brain. There's a nerve that connects our gut to our brain called the vagus nerve. I only remember that because I'm from Vegas, right? So, but it's spelled differently, VAGUS, vagus nerve. But basically, it's saying that that our gut. So for every one signal that goes from our brain to our gut, there's 10 signals that go from our gut to our brain. So, for example, if you're just trying to lose weight and you're just trying to man, I'm going to power my way through weight loss, right? And you probably been there, right? No matter
Yeah.
what, I'm not going to eat that Twinkie, right? And you send one signal down saying no Twinkie. If your gut is overloaded with yeast, for example, with candida, okay, they crave processed food. Okay, there's 10 signals going yes, Twinkie. You're like no, one signal, one, boop, 10, yes, and eventually you're just going to crumble and you're going to eat that Twinkie because it's not your fault. It's your gut's fault. And the food industry knows this. Like big pharma, big food, big government, man, get out of our lives. Like seriously. But so probiotic. Now, man, we could go into this and I hope we can chat again some other day, but there's things you need to look at in a probiotic. I'll say them quickly, but look for one that has billions and billions of colony forming units. CFUs is what they're called. Okay. If you're only
Okay.
getting millions, we are trillions of bacteria in our gut. We need billions in order to make a dent in it. Okay. Two, you
Right.
need to look for a prebiotic, which is food for the probiotic. Okay. So probiotics expand, they grow, they propagate. So if you give them food, then they will grow. Okay. Three, look for at least 10 different strains in your probiotics. So just look at the side of the bottle and look for 10 different, lactobacillus and bifidobacterium and just whatever, 10. Doesn't really matter which ones, but look for at least 10. It's a good probiotic if they got that. Four, make sure it can get through the acidity of the gut. So it'll be what's called enteric coated. Okay. That's another sign there. And That's pretty much the best things you can look for in a probiotic. So 1, a multivite, 2, a probiotic, 3 is an omega-3 fatty acid. Okay, omega-3s. Okay, now if you find an omega-3 product and you look at the side of the bottle, you want to look for what's called EPA plus DHA. Okay, and you add those up. Okay, you add those 2 ingredients up, and you want those 2 to equal at least 1,000 to 3,000 milligrams. Okay. Now, don't just take the front of the bottle. It says 1,000 milligrams of fish oil, right? You got to look at the EPA plus DHA. Now, EPA is an ingredient that helps with what we call shoulders down. Okay, EPA helps with blood pressure, cholesterol, heart health, inflammation, things like that. Okay. Now, DHA is what we call shoulders up health. So this is like brain health, eye health. So if you've got depression or anxiety or ADD or ADHD or OCD, okay, try to find a supplement that focuses on DHA because it's a brain craziness, right? Your brain needs food, it needs DHA, and if it's not getting fatty acids that especially come in omega-3s, fish oils, okay, if it especially doesn't come in fish oils, our body's going to use Kentucky Fried Chicken grease, right? It's our body's going to use some kind of oil that we're giving it, right? Potato chip, deep fried oils, right? And it's like going to make a crappy brain that can't handle pressure or stress or anything that's coming at it. So you need quality fats, okay? Quality fish oils, EPA plus DHA. So 1,000 to 3,000 milligrams is what we call a wellness dose. 3,000 to 6,000 milligrams of EPA plus DHA is what we call a therapeutic dose. So if you've really got a lot of craziness, or you've really got a lot of cholesterol issues or heart issues or things like that down here, you want to make sure to get 3,000, 6,000. I take 3,000 a day just to bridge wellness with therapeutics. Okay. Now those are the 3 things. Okay. Probiotic and fish oil. Outside of that, it's magnesium and vitamin D. Magnesium, every drug we take needs magnesium to cut it, like I was telling you. So if you're getting biggest symptom of lack of magnesium is Charlie horses, right? If you're getting muscle cramps at night, or you're getting like that twitchy eye, like I don't know if you get that, Izzy, or like a twitchy muscle, it's just like sitting there twitching all day long. It's a magnesium deficiency. And if your muscles don't even have enough magnesium, then you're going to start suffering in other aspects of magnesium. And then vitamin D is obviously, again, there's hundreds of things that vitamin D does, but especially with metabolism and weight. So those are the 3 things if you're not going to take anything else, vitamins, no big. I'm with you. There's a lot you can do, but a probiotic, and fish oil is, in my humble opinion, a must.
All right, last 2 questions. This one I just want a simple yes or no. The other one you can answer. This next one, is there a role for Big Pharma in the future of holistic health, or do you believe these entities are inherently at odds with the concept of wellness?
No. Okay. I take it back. Yes and no.
I'll answer this with this. If people are like you, yes. If they are on the other side, which mainstream is, then no. And then the last one, looking ahead, what are the most exciting advancements or trends in holistic health that you believe could transform healthcare in the next decade?
Yeah, so biohacking, right? Kind of like a computer, right? Where I'm always looking at hacking my computer and making it perform better with less, right? Like I don't want to upgrade my RAM or things like that. Our bodies are essentially the same way, and I love the idea of biohacking, getting the most out of what we're doing. I think probably one of the most interesting things that we can do that we'll need to figure out in the future is basically what you're saying, is what you've said prior. Start where you can, right? If you can't eat raw veggies or whatever because it's too expensive or because you just can't, start with one day a month, one day a year. I don't know. Start with somewhere, right? But when it comes to so one of the things I'd point you to is something called hydrogen water. So this is actually what I'm drinking here. This is actually a hydrogen generator. It's got like 9 plates in here that actually, when you fill with water, you basically push a timer on. It creates what's called hydrogen water. So hydrogen water is like, it's an antioxidant water. Okay, if you want to think of that, so vitamin C and all those veggies that you're eating, why we're eating them is because it's an antioxidant. It's it's getting rid of oxidation in our body. The best way to think of oxidation is like an apple. If you cut an apple and leave it on your counter, what happens? It turns brown, right?
Right.
Our bodies are oxidizing. It's like a rusting, right? Your fence. You put a fence out in the elements, and after 10 years, it's rusting. Okay. So oxidation isn't good, and it's what happens with oxygen. So an antioxidant gets rid of oxidation. Now, if you eat vegetables, so for example, by drinking 1.5 liters of this a day, okay. Now, make sure you get a proper. You want to get at least 5,000 what's called ppbs, parts per billion. So don't buy like a cheapy one. Like they'll typically run about $200. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say that's cheap or anything, but drinking about 8 of these a day, which it's a cup, 1 cup of is each. By drinking 1.5 liters of hydrogen water per day, it's equal to eating 45 cabbages, or eating 516 apples, or eating 765 bananas. Okay, it's got, now it doesn't give you the nutrients. That's not what I'm saying. You still need to eat quality, right? I'm not saying don't, but this is an antioxidant rich water. And I don't have time to eat 45 cabbages. I don't know if I've eaten 45 cabbages in 10 years.
Right.
To be honest, and then the quality of our bananas and apples with pesticides and GMOs, I need to speed up the process of health and healing. So by doing things like this, hydrogen water, okay, and there's all sorts of other waters out there, and structured water and other things that sure may or may not work. I don't know, but this one, man, no joke, inflammation in my body. I will push. I'm not young, but I'm a millennial, right? I'm born in '86, so but I went and played volleyball last night, man, and I'm hurting today. But I'm drinking this stuff like crazy, and my inflammation's going down. Like my ankle's already feeling better, right? I rolled it like a moron, and so I'm so excited for the future of advancements, I guess, is kind of where I'm going with that. There are some really cool things coming, and I think with regard to biohacking, that's where I kind of tend to want to lie. How to
Okay.
performance,
No, for sure. And I appreciate it. Like I said, this has been a great episode, and it's been a lot of gems dropped. That's why we gotta split it
Shoot.
up. So now, finally, this is just some fun. We move into the last segment for today, which is game time. This game is called Myth or Med. I'm gonna name 5 example things here, questions, whatever, and I want you to tell me whether or not this is a myth or med. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Pharmaceutical drugs were created to heal us without side effects. Myth or med?
But it's myth, but I think they think that's true, med, but it's
Okay.
complete myth, total bunk.
Holistic health takes longer to kick in compared to pharmaceutical drugs.
Very true.
Okay.
Fact.
People who are cautious of pharmaceutical drugs should have on a straitjacket.
Total fake, false. Heck no. It's a blend of the two, like you said. It's not all one. It's not all the other. It's
Yeah. Holistic health doesn't have any negative side effects.
false. Yeah. Now I will say this. When it comes in its proper form, okay, God made. Okay, so statins, cholesterol meds, Izzy, that they want to put you on, for example, originated from something called red yeast rice. Okay, so if you
Okay.
want to take the natural form, take red yeast rice. Red yeast rice is statins. They isolated the component in it that works for cholesterol, and they supercharge it. Right, they get rid of all the other superfluous stuff, all the other what they call inactive ingredients. They take the one component, they supercharge it, and they give it to you, and they call it a statin. Okay, they synthesize it. Okay, when you take out all these inactive ingredients, God put these in there for a reason. And when you take the original red yeast rice, it does not have the side effects because of all of the inactive ingredients help stop a lot of those harsh side effects. So God made it perfectly. Now they look at it as inactive ingredients, but now you can still take a heck ton of red yeast rice and still hurt yourself, sure. But it is not even close, right? You take one too many of those statin drugs, and you could set your body into a really bad spot for sure.
All right. Last one. Dr. Curnutt is the best holistic health doctor around.
Well, I mean, to me, yes. But seriously, no, man. All praise be to God, right? There's so many people out there that are phenomenal. I'm just trying to make my way and help. Just in closing, I know My traditional client is 45 to 65-year-old women. They're
Yeah.
they're they're the people who care about wellness. They're trying to drag their husbands in, saying, you need help, Herb. And Herb's like, no, I don't want help. Like,
Yeah.
but like this, our generation is where I really want to focus, right? Like we need to prevent it. Prevention is so much better than having to cure it. If we can just
Exactly. And
prevent
that's
it, we won't need to cure it.
the thing, even when in my life personally, with me doing all this at 29, doing all this raw stuff that I'm doing now, with me getting to the point where some people can continue to do it, but I know at some point I'm going to cut off alcohol altogether, right? I already don't do drugs. So, and me working out and me, so I just believe that because I see people at the gym, they're older, and some of these people are 60, 70, and they don't have any health problems. But we were taught that, oh, you get older, it's just how it is. And I just was
Totally
like,
the
that's
same.
just, I just
Well,
can't live that way.
and if I could give you guys maybe just one quick tip on when it comes to addiction, look at vitamin B1, which is called thiamine. A lot of people lack B1. It's called a thiamine deficiency, and as you lack thiamine, your body has a craving for it, and the craving typically is satisfied very weakly by alcohol. And so a lot of people tend to go towards alcohol thinking, oh, this makes you feel better for a very brief moment until the alcohol wears off. And then you still need vitamin B1. So again, it goes back to those nutrient deficiencies. If you can just get all the nutrients your body needs, it won't have certain cravings, right? Now there's addiction, of course, and there's a lot of other issues at hand, sure. But if we can just, it may not be your problem. It may just be a lack of vitamins. So
Even on the way out, we still got gems dropping. All right, so we didn't cover a lot, and now since this is now in two parts, you're gonna have to take what this second part as well as the first part to answer the question, the challenge for the week. So, what are your views on the pharmaceutical companies now? And I challenge you to integrate holistic health practice into your daily routine for the next 21 days.
super cool.
So that way you can try something, whether it is, the simple one starting to work out, because a lot of y'all ain't doing that either. But that's a simple one. If you could say, I may have one raw meal a day, or no matter what I eat, even if I go get me some fried chicken and some French fries, I may have a fresh raw salad on the side too. You know what I'm saying? It's about balance, y'all. That's how you keep weight off, and that's how you can be you're satisfied. People used to laugh at me when I used to post some of my meals back in the day on Instagram. I post like a big salad and I have a side of fries, because you got to have your balance. So of course the fries aren't healthy, but if the salad is, so it's just you got to have balance so that you cannot still overdo it, because you're still doing better than somebody who's eating instead of having a big salad and a small fry, a large fry and a large five fried chicken wings, and so it's just a balance. Okay, so a lot of gyms dropped these last 2 weeks. Anything you want to add or close out with before we go?
Man, I just want to confirm what you're saying there. Like small changes. Uh, don't people that make extreme changes quickly, right? New Year's resolutions, and they just go from cold turkey. Like they fail. Like as a holistic health coach, I help people do what they like, right? But make those tweaks and those adjustments, right? I told one of my clients once, I'm one of the best tweakers there is, and then I had to like go, wait, I'm not a tweaker. I'm totally not a tweaker. But I tweak and adjust people's regimens so that they can still have things they love. Like you said, just decrease the amount of fries you're eating. Think of meat like a condiment. Okay, instead of having a big piece of meat and a little salad, have a big salad and a little piece of meat. Right? Even just that. I'm not saying meat's terrible, but it truly has some right forks over knives. There was a documentary release called Forks Over Knives saying we should eat forks like in a salad rather than knives for meat. And it really went into a lot of health causation when related to cancer and blood pressure. And so I'm not saying meat's the bad guy, but truly, I mean, we probably need to eat less of it, right? Those nutrients that are in vegetables. And so small changes, right? Adding something like a water a few times a day, a week, right? Adding a multivite into your life, just doing that for 21 days, you're going to see some massive results for sure. So I just want to confirm what you're saying, Izzy. It's just so valuable.
No,
Nuggets.
for sure. No, definitely, definitely. So, all right, y'all. That is all we have for today and these last 2 weeks. So, tune in next week. We have another great guest. Thank you for holding it down for us for 2 weeks. A lot of good content, and I'm using all of it. PSA signing out. Always remember, keep your head up like your neck hurt. Remember who you are. Make your mind up. Don't let it make you. And I love us for.